Hello, everybody. Welcome to Cubs Brawl, the Away Games podcast, a Chicago Cubs and baseball podcast hosted by two comedians who live in New York but love the Cubs. I'm one of them. I'm Adam Mamawala, and I'm here, as always, with Kevin McCaffrey, and I think maybe we'll record some podcasts in person this year. That is my goal. But in the meantime, hello via Zoom once again.
Hey, yeah, that's true. We will get to do that at some point sooner than later, kind of. That's interesting.
It's exciting.
Follow us at Away Games Pod on Twitter and Instagram, and we are coming to the end of spring training pretty soon here.
I don't know about you, but I'm starting to feel that excitement again. Like I always question whether or not I'll have it, and then I think it's also a combination of like the weather's getting nicer and spring is around the corner, and it feels like hopefully we're rounding a corner of the pandemic. So there's some added stuff this year, but like just knowing that the baseball season will presumably start on time is very exciting, because at this time last year, they had already pushed it a month. And then I think by now, we were all just like, yeah, this is probably not going to happen, period.
Right. Yeah. The fact that it's coming, and it seems to be like it's going to be in some sense at least much more normal of a year, even just statistically it's going to be more normal of a year. It's going to be weird to have dudes like hitting 30 homers again, you know. I very much like the
Luke Voit hit 20.
That's true. Yeah, Voit went big.
Ridiculous.
But yeah, I mean, I very much enjoy how baseball stats look at the end of the year. I've done this even when I've had baseball video games where I haven't shortened the season, even though it's like I can't play 162 games of this thing, but I just like the stats, how they look at the end. So I'm happy we're going to have that.
How long would that take you to play 162 game season in a video game?
I think if you're doing quick counts on the show, I mean, you're still doing probably 35 minutes a game, 40 minutes a game, maybe, I think, if you're doing 9-inning. So I mean, that's
like a month or two, probably.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yes, I've managed to not do that even in quarantine last year. But yeah. So how are we feeling? What do you want to talk about Cubs wise, Adam? You lead me.
I mean, I feel like it's becoming clear to me that the Cubs are going to win the World Series. And
okay, all right, you've turned around.
I've turned a corner. No, I mean, I'm excited about how a lot of the bats look early on. I was completely horrified to think that Kyle Hendrix hurt himself running out a ground ball in spring training. He is hitting
hit a liner to right. He hit the single, and then they tried to throw him out at first.
I was going to say it felt exactly like the kind of hit where a pitcher gets thrown out at first.
Yes, and I totally understand being like, oh, I don't want to get embarrassed like this, but also I would hope, Kyle, if you in a spring training game, I don't think that's going to happen again. They had him thrown on the B game on the backfield the other day instead of on the main field. So I don't think we're going to see another Kyle Hendrix spring training at bat, maybe.
I hope not, yeah.
Kyle, just let him throw you out at first. It's funny. Even if you see them start throwing to first, just turn around and go to the dugout. Nobody who gives a shit. It does not matter. Yeah,
totally. And I mean, I believe Ross said he almost threw up in his mask, was the quote, like when he saw Hendrix kind of go down awkwardly after hitting first base. So, I mean, that would just be beyond demoralizing. So I'm very glad that did not go worse than it could have.
And he was just named officially opening day starter, which is, we knew that was coming, but it's still nice to see him get the honor and get on the list of. It's not it's not a massive list of names, guys who have started on opening day for the Cubs on back-to-back years or multiple years at all, really. And
Kyle Hendrix he was phenomenal last year on opening day.
I mean, almost literally couldn't be better.
Yeah. I mean, that is like the quintessential definition of mid-season form, the way he came out in that first game.
Yeah.
The infamous hand sanitizer game, if you will.
Yes, Rizzo, who had been planning the joke for months and then landed it perfectly. It's great. It's nice to remember. So there were some nice moments last year. The opening day complete game shutout from Hendrix, right? You got your hand sanitizer. You got your back-to-back homers off of Hader for that game. Alec Mills no-hitter. And I know there were other nice things that happened, but that's my main list, I think.
It was great, and also the Brewers not making the playoffs. Not that the Cubs did much of anything.
The Brewers did, though.
Oh, they did. Wait. They lost the Dodgers, right?
Yes.
See, they were there so briefly that I almost forgot about them, like the Cubs.
Yes, exactly. The Central really showed out last year with all the playoff teams.
What did Yelich end up hitting last year?
Hit 12 homers, which isn't bad.
No, it's not
He
bad.
actually did end up with a 113 WRC plus, which is a little surprising. I mean, way below what you normally do. He struck out at a 30% clip, hit 205.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
I mean, there was, and I think like the WRC plus that stat tells you basically how you compare to the rest of the league in terms of overall production. It's sort of a catch-all stat. So that means he was 13% better than the league average, which shows you. I mean, there were just so many guys. Look at the division-winning Cubs. So many guys who were just so down offensively last
Right.
year.
It really is amazing that they won the division.
Mm-hmm.
That they were even above 500, considering how much people struggled. But I think that speaks to the starting pitching.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the thing where, I feel like we've been hearing about the pitch lab for longer than we've been seeing the fruits of it. But now I really feel that this is a team that knows what it's doing in terms of pitching philosophy. I think it's the first part of the game where I felt like the Cubs were ahead from an organizational standpoint,
Right.
like ahead of much of the league. I mean, it's been at least 4 years since I felt that way, I think.
Mm-hmm.
This you look at the bullpen, all the names. I'm going to be bummed out to not be able to keep a ton of basically you could. There's 12 names I'd be happy to take north, I think, in this bullpen, and some of that is signing, making good signings. But besides Kimbrel, there's not a huge money reliever in the bunch there. It's just the Cubs seem to have found a way to play to these guys' strengths. And now it's going to be a really interesting bullpen. And I feel confident about it. The rotation, I don't feel as confident about, but I feel like the Cubs will get the best that each of those guys can do.
Right. I mean, there's certainly going to be some hard conversations with Rossi in terms of who doesn't break with the team, because there are people who are deserving. As always, it's going to depend on who has options and who doesn't.
That's going to be a huge thing. Yeah.
Who do you think is going to be like on the outside looking in as a result of that? Not even like results oriented, but just.
Well, I think it could be some sneaky option stuff, because I think you're probably gonna see the Cubs lean on that a little more. So I mean, there's a guy like Jason Adam who's maybe the reliever you feel best about, but does technically have an option. I think he has to start the year with the team, no matter what. Brad Wick looks great, by the way.
Right.
Brad Wick is hitting 94 on the gun. He's looking like he did year before last, and he when the Cubs got him in the trade for Edwards, and he looks great, but he has an option left. So I think I would predict that Wick is going to start in the minors, even though that's a lefty. You'd be, a big 6'8", 6'9" lefty throwing heat with a good hammer. That's going to be very good. I just don't see how you keep Rex Brothers off this roster right now. He's just nasty every time he comes in. I think that's your second lefty behind Chafin. Dylan Maples is out of options. He's changed his delivery to a point where he just does look much better and much more repeatable. But
he's still kind of running into some of the same issues, which is like he was close to an immaculate inning, and then ended up giving up a run in that inning.
Yeah, he's not. But I think with Maples, he's always going to be in a guy. Sometimes there will be a walk in there at some point. I don't think he'd ever be a guy who'd get fully away from that. But he just is much more around the zone. And with his level of stuff, the slider and a fastball in the upper 90s, that's really what it is just being around the zone, not being a ton of non-competitive pitches. But I think it would be very hard to take Maples north. Also, Pedro Strop hitting 95 on the gun.
And that's a very good sign, especially with a shortened spring training by his own doing, as we've talked about. But which is not, I mean, the last time he pitched in a Cubs uniform, I don't feel like, was he at 95 at that time?
No.
I mean, I don't feel like he was at all. He wasn't healthy completely at that time, but.
Right. And he wasn't at that velocity last year with the Reds in the time he was there either. Yeah. So I mean, these are great signs, and the slider looked good too. He was getting weak contact, but
hats to the right, velocity to the north.
Yes, exactly. Just to crank up that hat. And I think it would be tough for him to make the opening day roster, but he's in on a minor league deal. We don't know with a lot of these pitchers, even the ones on minor league deals, some of them are going to have options where if they're not on the major league team, they can elect free agency, and we just don't have all the details on that. Not all of them are public, but I think one name that we did not expect to be on the opening day roster that I feel fairly confident about being there now is Shelby Miller. Um,
Yeah.
Shelby Miller's hitting 95, 96 and looking really good. And I mean, I think that's probably your sixth or seventh starter, depending on how things go. But I think he'll probably be a multi-inning reliever at the beginning. So, I mean, pitching wise, bullpen, I feel great. It's just going to be really interesting to see how they make the decisions, who to take north.
Do you think starting pitching wise that Arrieta is your number two?
I think Davies probably is, but I think
Yeah.
it's probably Davies Arrieta, but it's those three. Trevor Williams has looked great this this spring too.
Mhm.
And he's Sahadev had a really good piece in the Athletic talking about Trevor Williams and what the changes he's made working with Hottovy. Williams looks really good right now too. I feel like Trevor Williams, out of everybody, the way I'm looking at how this season could go, he's got big Paul Mahalam, Scott Feldman energy for me, because there is going to be some depth to this rotation and guys who are bumping up against AAA now. Or the upper reaches of AAA. Keegan Thompson had a horrible game the other day, but he's looked great this offseason. I mean, this is a second round pick who's hitting 97 now, and he hasn't done that before. So I think like Trevor Williams here on a 1-year deal out of all these guys looks really good and might be a guy who gets flipped at the deadline almost regardless of how the team's doing. But
interesting. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but that does make sense if the Cubs are able to stay healthy starting pitching wise. Like he could be somebody who could get you a nice piece, or it also depends on like if the Cubs are just dealing to get pieces for the future. So
right, yeah, and we still don't know Alzolai's option situation because baseball's filled with idiots who just no one takes longer to do a job than the arbitration process of Major League Baseball.
Yeah, they really put the arbitrary in arbitration, don't they?
They sure do. Yes, they. I just make the fucking decision. And I mean, we say this as also we are pretty sure there's no DH in the National League, but there still could be.
Could you imagine the fury that would rain down if Hendrix like tore his ACL and then they were like, you know what, actually, no pitchers hitting this year.
Oh, and I mean, Arizona might have a little bit of that feeling right now because Zach Gallen is a stud pitcher who's, he's kind of already broken out, but he's a young pitcher who was great and was looking really good coming into this year. And he now has some elbow forearm discomfort based on swinging a bat, which he hadn't done in a long time. So, it's just, I wish this league was run by better people, by better people and by people who are better at their job. Yes. I wish Major League Baseball was. But as of right now, the Cubs pitchers at least are putting down bets among the rotation as far as for home runs, bunts. I forget what else they had in there, but they're.
I mean, you got to put money on Jake to hit a home run.
Yes.
Before. I don't know that do you think Hendrix or Zach Davies have ever even hit a batting practice home run?
I think Hendrix
probably batting practice. Yeah,
Hendrix has taken it to the wall a couple times. He hit one off the wall in dead center in St. Louis once, and he's taken it off the ivy a time or two. So he can. Davies, I haven't seen what kind of stick he's carrying. Trevor Williams, he's also
just a big dude.
He is a big dude. Trevor Williams says he cannot do it. So he said he's just donating money. I
don't see Mills being someone who can hit a home run.
I think Mills is going for OBP stuff. Mills is going opposite way. I think he's going contact.
Well, and also, I mean, look, Mills and Sogard have kind of a similar look with the glasses, so
they do.
It could be that kind of hitter. Speaking of Sogard, what are your feelings on the second base situation? Because I know you've always been a big Bodie mark.
I am a big Bodie mark,
as you should be, and he is just crushing home runs right now. Like, I think what has he got? 3 home runs? I feel like they should be worth 5.
Yeah, he had 2 in a game last week, right? And Bodie
is right now. I'm looking at his stats. He's got 3 homers. He in 32 at bats. He's got 11 hits. He's OPSing over 1,000.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a good amount of David Bodie over the last few years. One thing that stands out about David Bodie that is just a skill he has that is a little bit of a you got it or you don't. he just hits the ball harder than most people. His exit velocity is very high. It's a very high percentile when compared with the rest of the league. Bodie can hammer a baseball. And I mean, and there are guys, I mean, Willie Mo Pena could too, and so it's like, that's not the only skill that matters, but we know that is something he has, and that is part of the reason why you dream on a guy like that, who's been pretty productive too. He had like a weird reverse split weakness that I don't think is super real. But I think it's more of a sample size thing. But I think like I do want to see David Bodie getting regular at bats. I think if Nico's on the team, you do want him getting. Nico's going to be your best defender at second base. Period. And
he also looks fucking ripped.
Yeah, he looks like, I know, I'm sort of like worried, is it too jacked? But he started the spring great, and he still looks like he's moving well. So great, awesome,
Yeah, Nico right now, I mean, he hasn't quite kept up the torrid pace, but he's OPSing 923. So I think you'll take that.
Yeah, you'll take. I mean, that's if
especially for a guy like Horner who's like pretty light hitting.
Yeah, if he's OPSing anywhere around like 800 this year, you're feeling great about it. And I just want David Bodie to get regular at bats in some fashion. Starts at second, starts at third if Chris is going to the outfield. And I think if Nico's up, he's getting the bulk of the at bats, as I think, and I can't argue with that.
And he is a better defender for sure. I mean, we saw one of the niftier double plays of spring training so far. Was a really cool. They had a great camera angle of it, but Kimbrel was pitching, and Baez flipped it to Horner, who did a very, very graceful kind of like leap and throw to first.
Oh, it was incredible. I mean, with Baez, Horner, Rizzo, you have three potential Gold Glovers in that infield. And Chris Bryant, by the way, there was an update on the defensive run saved stats, how those are compiled. And Chris Bryant suddenly got a lot better at defense. And that does, as Sahadev was saying, matches the eye test more over the past couple of years. But Bryant's metrics went up. Chris has gotten to be, he was never a bad third baseman, but he's gotten a lot better too. I mean, so it's just an incredible infield defense going around that way, which is great. And you'll need that with this pitching staff. I don't have any interest in Eric Sogard being on the team, I would say.
I'm with you there.
Yeah, I think you have Bodie, great. You have Bodie and Horner. The only way I could see it is if you were having Nico not start with the team, which seems unlikely now. And Ildemaro Vargas is a guy who's out of options, high contact guy, has a little more pop. If you're keeping one between Vargas and Sogard, give me Vargas personally.
Right, exactly. You want that extra bat to be someone who's more versatile, I would say. Yeah, and I think if there is some way that Sogard starts the season with the big league team, it's going to be a real like Mike Olt sort of situation. I don't think he's going to be sticking around for too long.
Could be a short-lived situation. Yeah, and I get it for sort of insurance, but we have I feel like each of the last several years the Cubs have 6 second basemen and no idea who their second baseman is. It's just like,
not since Javi played second has that really been like a go-to person.
Yeah. And
am I forgetting? I mean, I feel like since then it's been kind of a revolving door.
Yeah, once Javi moved it, because it basically was Zobrist, and then you had Russell and Javi, and then they flip-flopped.
Right. And also Zobrist was like in the outfield a lot of the time as well, so it's not like he ever was kind of firmly there.
Yeah. And then speaking of bench guys, Jake Mariznick is just going absolute ham on the ball. I think he's OPSing like it was 1,500 last I saw.
It's over. It's higher. It's 1,700 now.
Yeah, okay,
he is leading. I am looking up Cubs hitting by ranked by OPS. Jock Peterson is even more impressive given the volume of at bats that he's gotten, because Jock is OPSing at like 1,300. But yeah, Jake Mariznick, 1,727. OPS. He is 5 for 11, so limited sample size, but he is, and he hit a home run that was an absolute bomb as well.
Mariznick is a guy who's known mainly for his speed. He's extremely fast. He's a guy who I think is around the 90th percentile in sprint speed. Grades out great by defensive metrics in the outfield.
Mhm.
He a very good center fielder, great in the corners. Right-handed bat, but for a guy with speed, I think he's like 6'4", 190. He's a big
He's
man.
big. Yeah, he's like
Yeah.
if Jason Worth didn't suck in the outfield.
Yeah. If Jason Worth didn't suck in the outfield, and if Jason Worth was much worse offensively,
Right.
this spring notwithstanding. But yeah, he's like
he is listed at 6'4", 228, so he's not a small man.
Okay, yeah, that's even thicker than I thought. But
yeah,
I mean, like, this is going to be it's an interesting year to see how the edges of the roster are gonna shape out. I just kind of want to fast forward now at this point to see. We've seen stuff from seen these guys play enough over the spring. I'm about ready to just do it.
Well, as we record this on Tuesday the 23rd, it's a week from Thursday is opening day, and man, it is going to be really nice to have an opening day with some fans in the stands. It's not going to be the same, but like what's fun, kind of fun right now, I don't know if you've noticed this in spring training, is that like obviously it's limited capacity, so you can hear fans, but there's also few enough fans that you can still hear the players like cheering when one of their teammates hits a home run, and I'm a big fan of that because that was fun last year.
Yes, I think that's fun. That's fun too.
Like on the Bodie home runs, you could very clearly hear the Cubs dugout being like, "Oh!"
And the Cubs still have one of the louder dugouts. I think even watching the spring training games we have, fun watching them get so excited. And
what do you think the chances are that the first game that you attend at Wrigley Field post COVID you cry? Because I feel like it's like at least a 90% chance for me that I'll at least get a little teary. I don't know if I'll be sobbing, but just a little wetness in the eyes.
I think you might have more of that vibe than me. I think I don't think I'll.
You call me a pussy?
No, I'm going. You're very in touch with your emotions in this particular way, expressed in this dampened fashion. I don't think I'll cry. Although, like, one of my most surprising cries of all time was a Wrigley Field thing.
Have you talked about that before?
I may have, but
you drop a hot dog.
I dropped a hot dog, and boy, it was so good.
Inconsolable.
Yeah, I had to go to the ATM, get out another $12 to get another. No, it was. I ended up just randomly being there for Kerry Wood's last game. So the whole Kerry Wood sequence of coming in, the final strikeout, his kid running out, them playing him off.
The kid running out, that's, I think, what would
just, I mean, I was like tearing up before, and at the time, I'm not like a big crier, but like I was with my friend Cyrus, and we were there, and I was like, I don't know what's happening to me. And I think part of it is just, I very much felt the passage of time with Kerry Wood, because I was a kid, we're younger than him, but like, I'm not younger than him by a ton,
That's one of the first Cubs games I watched, to be honest with you. That was like right as I was getting into baseball.
Yeah. I think I was a high school freshman. I was a high school freshman when he had the 20 strikeout game. And so I remember all the promise of him. And I think watching his career come to an end made me feel my own mortality in a way. I think there was a lot of stuff going on there, and just like Kerry Wood's an all-time favorite Cub of mine, not a terribly original thought, but like he's on the very, very short list for me. But I actually am not going to be in Wrigley, but I am going to be on a rooftop on April 18th.
That's fantastic.
Game, which I think is an ESPN game because it's a Sunday night start. But myself, and my brother, we will both be vaccinated by then, and I'll be in Chicago. And
hell yeah,
he was getting tickets, so I'll be on the rooftop on April 18th.
Have you done a rooftop before?
I did, yeah. I've probably like 6 or 7 years ago at this point. Did one in the right field corner, kind of, and it was solid. I mean, you obviously can't see. You're not. You're not getting a lot of detail of the field, really, but
also Wrigley's so small that like it's not altogether dissimilar from sitting like all the way in the back of the upper deck at Citi Field. Like the distance you are from home plate is probably not super different.
You get a vibe, and you're watching it with other people who are into it too. They have the TVs there, so it's a chill way to watch the game.
Yeah.
And I don't know what inside Wrigley tickets are going for. But for the rooftop, and I don't know what kind of like beverages are included, but I think it was $89 a ticket, which is like not cheap, but
beverages are included. You said
I don't know. Usually,
Yeah.
last time I did the rooftop, it was that deal. Like there was certain things.
If that's
included.
the case, that's a great deal.
Oh, I mean, if it was, I don't think it's an open bar situation, but they would lose their money on me for sure in that case. But
I'm still eternally grateful that you did not follow my advice of going to a rooftop for one of the 2 playoff games last year. I would have felt guilty.
Oh yeah,
because you were in Chicago.
I was, yes,
yeah.
I was there for my my goddaughter's baptism. I think it was maybe that time, but yeah. No, I watched them lose to one of my, I guess my least favorite team from the comfort of my brother Pat's home. So yeah.
Speaking of what ticket prices will be, we posted this from the Twitter account once again at Away Games Pod. But I was curious, and I was just kind of looking up like what ticket prices will be at Citi Field and at Yankee Stadium, given the reduced capacity. And I'm sure it will change before then. But the ticket prices for the May 4th game, which is the first time the Astros come to Yankee Stadium after everything that has happened, with fans at least, the cheapest tickets were $11,000.
Just, I mean, we need a massive wealth tax because there are people who are going to buy those tickets. Are those the people you want at a baseball game? No, that crowd's going to be awful.
It sucks. It sucks that like for the time being, and of course I'm a proponent of like not having full capacity because we're not the fucking Texas Rangers,
right?
And that's a bad idea. But it does suck that sports which are already expensive to go to will become even more like prohibitively expensive for the time being. But I guess that is what it is.
Yeah, that's
supply and demand.
Yes, you've got to hook up in Washington. I have a friend who's got Yankee season tickets, so we've got a couple ins, I guess. But.
I was so well, needless to say, there are a lot bigger things to worry about. But I am disappointed that the Cubs schedule from last year did not repeat itself because they had some awesome trips. They were going to be at Yankee Stadium. They were going to be playing the Blue Jays. Of course, you and I were going to be in London.
Yeah.
And even
what a fake timeline that seems like. We had the tickets to go to London. Yeah.
Completely. Yeah. It's so strange to think about. And even the Cubs were going to be playing the Nationals. And it was this perfect thing where like I was doing this big corporate event at a huge convention center in April that lined up. It was like, a Monday through Wednesday. And the previous weekend, the Cubs were playing the Nats. So I was going to go to the full series, but for some reason that I still don't understand, they canceled a huge event at a convention center.
Yes, right. Yeah, they canceled a cruise ship I was supposed to do. I don't know. It was weird. It was.
What can you imagine if you had done it and it had happened and you had been stuck at sea? I can't even fathom it.
I was supposed to go to Belize on a cruise ship, and I canceled on them because of obviously, and they were like mad about it and made some noise about trying to like hold me to some sort of contract thing, and never came to it. But I was just like, fuck you, I'm not dying on a Royal Carnival cruise on the way to Belize doing 2 stand-up shows over the course of 8 days by myself.
He died doing what he tolerated, stand up on a cruise
barely yes, yeah, exactly. And fantasy baseball wise, we're gonna be starting up a fantasy baseball league with some of people's favorite Cubs social media people.
I'm excited about it. It's not even for any money, but there's a lot of shit talking that's already happening in the group chat, and I'm pretty stoked.
With Greg Huss from the Growing Cubs podcast is running it, and the Cubs related fellas, Corey and Brendan are involved too, and I'm sure there's others as well. But
seems like there's a Cardinals fan in our midst.
There is, yeah. That's fine,
Yeah,
but yeah, that'll be a fun thing. We'll be able to report to you on this podcast what other Cubs podcasters are good, are bad, are who talks the best shit. We'll be able to bring that to you.
What's going to be interesting is that usually, and I imagine it's kind of the same for you. Unless you're doing it with a lot of like Midwestern folks, I'm always like the one guy out of the 10 people or 12 people that is like super into the Cubs. So it's a little easier for me to pick Cubs unless I'm in an auction style draft, in which case people try to get my price up because they know I want the Cubs, which is always tricky. I believe we're doing like a snake draft, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to do. This is going to be the first time I'm doing fantasy with other Cubs fans.
Right.
So, if someone takes Alec Mills in the first round, it's not a normal fantasy.
Yes. Also, it's one of those things where I think with people who know their shit, when it's a bunch of, people who, I don't want to say baseball professionals, but people who have some of us have made a dime here or there from baseball things. you almost don't want to draft it. I wonder if it'll be the opposite, where no one wants to be the first one to draft a Cub because you don't want to be a mark. You don't want to be that way about it.
Who is the Cubs' most highly rated fantasy player? Hendrix or like Javi or KB?
This year, I wonder who's going highest, because it's been each of these guys in different years have got like Javi's been the top, because Javi will get you steals as well. Also, if you're in a batting average league as opposed to an OBP league, Javi is worth a little more. But I feel like, I almost think Wilson Contreras, because you've got the catcher scarcity there. And I just think he is, he was my pick for full league MVP last year. Maybe I was a year early on that, but I feel very confident about Wilson this year. So
you gotta get his handcuff though. You gotta get PJ Higgins.
Yeah, PJ, who did have a rough day yesterday, let some balls by, but I do like PJ Higgins, and it looks like there's a chance that PJ is going to get a chance to make his major league debut as the Cubs' backup catcher if Austin Romine isn't ready, which it seems like he won't be.
Yeah. It'll be a real McCaffrey Davis situation. You just gotta hold on to that backup.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
not you, McCaffrey. Christian.
Yes, Christian. Yes. Cool. All right. Well, that's basically all I got. You got anything else?
That's all I got. I will be honest, I have not watched a minute of March Madness. I just haven't been into it this year. But if you are someone who watches March Madness or any other sports, as always, you can go to Thrive Fantasy. You can make some fun prop bets. You can use promo code AwayGames for a free $20 with your first deposit of $20 or more. Please do that. We mention it every week. We would like to profit off of your gambling. I'm just going to be honest.
We have before, but not as much as we've liked. So we root for you too. We can all profit off this. It's gambling. Yeah. It's no downside, right? That's how it works. Gamble responsibly. And by that, I mean just win. So yeah, that's it. And follow us on Twitter and Instagram at AwayGamesPod. And we will catch you with a full season preview soon, either next week or the week after that. But it's coming. Baseball's coming.
Hell yeah.